welcome to my channel. So I'm doing a requested reading. Someone requested that I do an updated Nichol Kessinger and Chris reading. What's going on in their relationship? What's their relationship like currently? So let's get to it, guys. Spirit guides, guardian angels, please show me. Spirit guides, can you please show me with the tarot? What is Nichol Kessinger's relationship with Chris Watts? Present. What is the present relationship between Nichol Kessinger and Christopher Watts? What is their present relationship? What's going on presently in their relationship? Please show me with the tarot. So we have the Ace of Cups. We have the Five of Swords in the reverse. The Four of Wands in the reverse. The Page of Cups. The Fool card. Strength. We have the Eight of Swords in the reverse and the Nine of Wands. And on the bottom is the Page of Swords. Alright, so we can see here with the Ace of Cups that, you know, that speaks to them starting fresh. They're starting fresh with their communication, with opening up. It seems like because the Five of Swords is the next card, and it's in the reverse as well, which is compromising and finding solutions, resolutions, you know, healing the past, stuff like that. So it seems that some sort of betrayal had happened. The lines of communications were closed. They have opened back up. The lines of communication closed due to a lack of support from the family, her feeling insecure and unstable. And now with the Page of Cups, we can see that they're going to be transforming, coming up with creative ideas, in order to find balance, basically, and integrate or blend things to, you know, seem one way, not implement her, and to look at things from a different way. So still get what the family wants, but introduce it in a different way, being creative. So, as I said before, I think she was a part of Kim's, either, you know, they were the same person or related, which I still think could be true. Or, you know, she could be Lana or one of their family members. But either way it goes, she's a part of the creative endeavors that have been going on. And it seems that with this fresh start, because, you know, again, the fresh start is right there in the Fool. So she's finally got a fresh start, a blank slate. They're starting over. There's also travel going on, so I guess maybe she traveled to, because with the Strength card beside it, so it seems like when she traveled, this traveling was the opportunity for her to prove herself and to regain control, again with the Strength card, and be back in control, and restate her power and her claim, making sure things are kept in balance and that she doesn't run the risk of him saying something that he's not supposed to say, telling about her involvement. And it also seems that a financial opportunity, traveling for a financial opportunity with the creative inspiration. So I think maybe she was with Lana and the J is for Justice. She was there with them. And I do believe that Ronnie possibly gave her money because that was kind of to heal the wound and they needed it to go forward with whatever she told him. The basically, and then the Eight of Swords in the reverse is, her being relieved and relieving the pressure from herself that she recently, that made her feel trapped and paranoid. And then the Nine of Wands is the ongoing battle and ensuing that she's in control of it so that she doesn't have to worry with the Eight of Swords. She gets herself out of the Eight of Swords energy and feels ready and motivated for any challenge because she's back in control of the situation. And again, Lana, spelled backwards, is anal, which lets you know that she's full of shit. Which so is she, but so it seems like she just got back in. She's in control of the situation. She's made resolutions and compromises, and that compromise might have been, there's no telling. Money, coming to an adaptable story. So whatever transformation is made, like whatever story they go with, I'm going to guess it's the NA story, because the angle that Kim was trying to go seems like it lost. It seems like almost there was two angles. Either we talk about Shanann killing the girls, or we just talk about Nicole Atkinson being responsible and not focus on how Nichol Kessinger isn't guilty, but how someone else is. Don't talk about her, talk about her. Repaint the whole scenario, basically. So that it's not, And I guess maybe Kim's didn't win. Kim's version of it didn't win, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if they're the same person. I do think that they sound a lot like, but I think that there's a lot of drugs and alcohol going on and a lot of mental health issues in the family. And let me tell you why. Because there's a difference, and they like to call and talk shit about Shanann Watts and how mean she was and a narcissist she was and all this stuff about her. Well, let me tell you something that proves that she's not who they think she is. Chris Watts' family, that is. When Chris Watts told her how he really felt about not being able to hang a picture, she self-reflected. I could have been different, I did make him feel this way. What can I do to change it? That is what normal people do. They look back at situations and see how they contributed in them and how they brought them into being. And they work to overcome and change that thing that they did. Change it, make it better in some way. See that person wasn't all bad, and the fact that his family has not been able to do that at all. They have not been able to reflect enough to see how they specifically led to the deaths of Shanann Watts and her children. Tells me that they have no heart. If they are unable to do that, that means that they're not good people. They are not people who give a shit about anybody else. They want to know who was in her belly and what the DNA of this baby was in her belly. Why? Because they'll actually give a shit if it was theirs. Because they should care regardless. It doesn't matter whose DNA was in the baby that was inside of her. It doesn't even matter whose DNA was inside of Bella and Celeste. They didn't ask to be brutally murdered. They didn't ask to be put in oil tanks. Shanann did not ask to be fucking killed. She might not have lupus. She might have done a lot of bad things for all we know. But what she didn't do was kill herself or her children. What she didn't do was change into anybody else. That was Christopher Watts. And when he changed was when he got back with whichever one, Nichol Kessinger. So tell me, the man that was with Shanann Watts for all those years never murdered, but the man that was with Nichol Kessinger, well, that man, he murdered. 2 + 2 = 4. no matter what way you slice it. And that's just the truth of the matter. So, if the family would like to blame someone, or if, anybody is to blame, who do you think it is? Do you think it's Chris? I think it is. Because I think that it's time for Chris to take accountability for his actions, for his words, and quit using the triangular method to keep people thinking that he's a poor little victim. You can see him doing it with people he even writes letters to. It's a ridiculous method, but it's one that people like him use in order to be in control. They use people's emotions and they gaslight them to react so they seem crazy. Or pit one against the other. Gaslight one against the other. Gaslight the other against... Well, they didn't really have a problem, but because of him, they do. He creates the problem so he can be the victim. Because he's a fucking man baby. He's a man baby. You don't get to get out of prison because you're a man baby. Women haven't been controlling him his whole life. He has been a man baby, little bitch boy, his whole life. And do I think that the one act of standing up for himself he did was kill his family? Not necessarily, because that's not the kind of guy he is. Remember, he's a triangulator, which means that they got someone else to do it, or it was someone else's hands, because he's too much of a pussy to do it. Nichol Kessinger has bigger balls than him. Shanann had bigger balls than him. I got bigger balls than him. He acts like he fears women, but it's really just he fears confrontation. He wants to make everybody happy because he's the type of man that will hit a woman, but not a man, because he doesn't want to be beat up, because he doesn't have any confidence in himself, whatever the case may be. Is it because of his mother, Cindy? Maybe, some of it. Is it because of his dad, Ronnie? Oh, yeah, probably more than some of it. His daddy's who he learned it from. His daddy is his hero, right? But yet, his girls are his world. Let me ask y'all something. Why did all those people say the same thing? Why did all of those people specifically say his girls are his world? That isn't even evident to people he worked with. I don't know how it would be. He rarely shows any kind of emotions that I've seen in anything that would entail that they were his world. And it's not like someone just goes around saying, my girls are my world. My girls are my world to everybody. And they specifically may remember that phrase. Unless, of course, that was what you were supposed to say, because he's a good father. He's such a good father. How do you know? How do you know? You've only hung out with him outside of work how many times? He was such a good dad. He wanted a room for me, bunk beds. You want to know when else bunk beds was mentioned? It was mentioned from Cassie to Shanann, who was going to move in with Chris and Shanann, who Shanann obviously, or nobody, told them, because Josh asked Chris about it too. They were going to sell their house, but Josh and Cassie asked if it was still okay for them to live there. They said yes. They were like, we can throw the kids down in the basement with some bunk beds, is what Cassie suggested. First of all, what kind of fucking suggestion is that? Bella and Celeste are little bitty girls. There's no way they could have been in the basement and been checked on, and, there's no way any parent would put their kids in the basement. And I just find it interesting that bunk beds was only mentioned by Nichol Kessinger and Cassandra, or Cassie. Cassie and Josh were going to be living with them. Why is it that she was talking about selling the house, but Cassie's over here oblivious, Josh's over here oblivious? Because Chris and Shanann, after they said they were going to be selling their house, was being like, okay, yeah, it's cool. It's fine for you to stay here. Where were they going to stay? In your apartment? What the fuck? And again, here's something interesting too. So it's not Frederick, Colorado that they lived in. It's Erie, Colorado, because that's what the address comes up as. But the deed for 6508 Saratoga Trail in Erie, Colorado, is owned by Sarah Peterson and her husband, who I cannot remember his name. But I find it very, very interesting that the Scott Peterson case and all that interesting things are tied together. It's interestingness. There's dynamics of this case that totally don't make sense and totally contradict themselves. That's all I'm saying. I didn't know that they had a 3-car garage. I thought they only had a 2-car garage. Why, when Chris was talking to the realtor, did he confirm that they had a 3-car garage? What was that other garage door? Did it open? Was it separate from the other garage? These are the things that I'd like to know. These are just some of the wonderful things. You know? That's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying. Anyway, love you guys. Thank you for listening.